Welcome to Millennium Daytime Bulletin. I'm Shweta Simar from New Delhi and you're watching Millennium News Channel 24. Today I'm bringing you the latest updates from around the world. Let's begin with today's top headlines. Donald Trump raises tariff on China to 104% effective today, White House said. Ukraine captures 2 Chinese nationals fighting for Russia. Gaza is a killing field, say United Nations chief as agencies urge world to act on the Israeli blockade. Rice crisis, Japan releases strategic reserve to ease prices of the nation's most important food. Reaffirmed strength of UAE and India ties, Dubai Crown Prince to meet Prime Minister Modi. Keeping India's interest at forefront, Piyush Goyal on US tariffs. Mobs target KFC, Bata as anti-Israel protests turned violent in Bangladesh. Market turmoil, investors flee to safe haven amid sharp decline in the stock prices. Punjab King star shatters IPL record with 39 balls done. Dodgers cap off 2024 World Series win with the White House visit. Now let's look at the details. Donald Trump has followed through on his threat of additional 50% tariff on China starting Wednesday. The White House announced that this will make America's new tariff on China an unprecedented 104%, and the President Donald Trump had given China 24 hours to roll back or withdraw the retaliatory 34% tariff if it imposed that on the United States good, failing to which Chinese would be punished with 104% tariff. Also, Beijing dared Washington to do so earlier today. Within hours, Donald Trump had to approve it. Also, journey from 10 to 104 is under a week. The United States is used to tariff China at 10% till last month, which President Donald Trump said robbed and ripped off the US economies of billions and billions of dollars as the tariff abuser Beijing levied a higher tariff on the United States good. Last week, Donald Trump also announced his reciprocal tariff move, wherein the United States would charge another countries roughly half the tariff that nation charged the United States. For China, this was additional 34%, taking Beijing's tally to 44%. Minutes after President Trump's reciprocal tariff announcement on April 2nd, the White House told reporters that due to the national emergency, which has stemmed from national security concerns due to persistent trade deficit, the United States is imposing a baseline 10% tariff on all countries. China's basket of tariff now stood at 54%. Now, with today's additional 50% tariff solely for China, Beijing now faces an unprecedented levy of 104%, a near 100% rise in less than a week. President Donald Trump, however, still left the door ajar for the Beijing to reconcile. In the post on the social media platform Truth Social, he wrote, "China also wants to make a deal badly, but they don't want to know how to get it started. We are waiting for their call." Also, China says will fight to the end. Also, the earlier today, the news is that China has responded to the President Donald Trump's ultimatum to withdraw Beijing's retaliatory move. They called it blackmail. The United States' threat to escalate tariff against China is a mistake on the top of the mistake, which once again exposes the United States' blackmailing nature and tactics. China Commerce Ministry said in a statement, adding that if the United States insists on having its way, China will fight to the end. The world faces an uncertain scenario with the two largest economies in the midst of a no-hold-barred trade war. Also, neither side is willing to blink as global markets markets have already experienced the biggest fall since COVID-19 pandemic. We'll have to see how the story unfolds in a couple of more days and weeks to come. Ukrainian forces have captured 2 Chinese nationals who were fighting for the Russian army in the eastern Ukraine's Donetsk region, President Vladimir Zelensky has said. He said on Tuesday that intelligence suggested that the number of Chinese soldiers in the Russian army was much higher than 2. Also, the Ukrainian Foreign Minister Andriy Sybiha also said that the Chinese troop fighting on the Ukrainian territory puts into question China's declared stance for peace, and added that their envoy in the Kyiv was summoned for an explanation. In the first official allegation from the Ukraine that China is supplying Russia with manpower, there has been no immediate response to the claims from the Moscow or Beijing. In the statement on the social media platform X, Zelensky said the soldiers were captured in Ukraine's eastern Donetsk region with the identification documents, including bank cards which had personal data on them. Also, Ukraine's forces fought 6 Chinese soldiers and took 2 of them prisoners, he said. The post was accompanied by a video showing one of the alleged Chinese captives in handcuffs, speaking Mandarin Chinese and apparently describing a recent battle. We have information suggesting that there are many more Chinese citizens in the occupiers unit than just these 2, he said. Russia's involvement of China along with other countries whether directly or indirectly in this war in the Europe is a clear signal that Putin intends to do anything but end the war, Zelensky added. The Ukrainian president called for a response from the United States, Europe, and all those around the world who want peace. Also, an investigation is underway and the captives are currently in the custody of the Ukraine Security Service, he added. On Tuesday, United States Department spokesperson Tammy Bruce called for the reports as disturbing. She also added that China is a major enabler of Russia's war in Ukraine, also citing its supply of dual-use goods such as navigation equipment, semiconductor chips, and jet parts. Ukraine's foreign minister said that he had summoned China's chargé d'affaires in the Kyiv to demand an explanation. We'll have to see how the issues unfold. The United Nations Secretary General says aid has dried up and floodgates of horror have reopened in the Gaza Strip, where Israel has blocked the entry of all goods and resumed the war against Hamas. Gaza is a killing field and civilians are in an endless death loop, Antonio Guterres said on Tuesday. His comment come after the head of the 6 United Nations agencies appealed to the world leaders to act urgently to ensure that the food and the supply reach the Palestinians there. Israel's foreign ministry also insisted that there was enough food in the Gaza and accused Guterres of spreading slander against Israel. Israel blockaded Gaza on the 2nd of March after the first stage of a ceasefire expired. Hamas refused to extend that part of the truce, accusing Israel of reneging on its commitments. Israel then renewed its aerial bombardment and ground offensive on 18th March, and that these have since killed 1,449 Palestinians, according to the Hamas-run health ministry in Gaza. The Israel military insists it does not target civilians. Also, in his address to journalists, Guterres said to Israel, as the occupying power had obligations under the international law to ensure that food and medical supplies get to that population. Also, the current path is dead end, totally intolerable in the eyes of the international law and history, he said. Responding to the comments, Israel Foreign Ministry said that there was no aid shortage in Gaza. As always, you don't let the facts get in the way when spreading slander against Israel, spokesperson Oren said. There is no shortage of the humanitarian aid in the Gaza Strip. Over 25,000 aid trucks have entered the Gaza Strip in the 42 days of the ceasefire, he added. Guterres' comments flowed and followed a joint statement issued by the 6 United Nations agencies on the Monday that said world leaders must act urgently to make sure that food and the aid supplies get to the Palestinians in the Strip. Gaza were trapped, bombed, and starved again, the statement added. We'll have to see how the issues unfold. It's eaten with almost every meal. Used to make sushi made into sweets, fermented into alcohol, and offered to the spirits at the religious ceremonies. Rice is everywhere in the diet of Japan. There are at least 6 ways in the Japanese to describe the grain, from the unhusked to ready to eat. It's also popular that the McDonald's there added a burger bun made of rice to its menu. But being so reliant on on the staple leaves the country, the world's fourth biggest economy, vulnerable to the slightest supply of the glitch. Also in the recent years, a combination of bad weather, heat waves and the threat of the typhoon and the earthquakes have also sparked bouts of panic buying in the nation of 124 million people. The average price of the 60-kilogram bag rose to around $160 last year, up 55% compared to the 2 years ago, according to the government figures. The situation has become so dire that the government announced in February that it would release 201,000 ton of the rice, more than the fifth of what it holds in the contingency reserve for auction. The first bag of the reserve rice have now gone on sale in the supermarkets. The government built its rice reserve in 1995, 2 years after an unexpected cool summer crippled rice harvest, forcing it to import overseas grains. It dipped into the store following the 2011 earthquake and tsunami, in which 20,000 people died or went missing, and again followed by the deadly Kumamoto earthquake in 2016. Other countries across Asia where rice is a staple, such as India, Vietnam and Thailand, also hold rice stockpiles to shield their population against shortages and price rises, which can spill into politics, like a recent surge in the egg prices in the United States. China has a strategic reserve of the country's favorite meal, that is pork, to deal with emergencies and stabilize prices when necessary. In Japan, the first batch of 150,000 tons of rice went under the hammer last month, according to the Ministry of Agriculture, Forestry and Fishes. Prices now are exceptionally high, Agriculture, Forestry and Fishery Minister Tako Eto said at the end of the auction. But I urge everyone not to worry, he added, also saying that he expected the injection of rice into the market would that mean the prices eventually would go down. ETO also said that it attributed the recent price hikes to the supply chain issue, saying that there was sufficient rice in the system, only that it has failed to reach the shelves in the supermarket, without specifying why. On Wednesday, Trial Holding, which runs a chain of discounted supermarkets in the southern island of the Kyushu, confirmed to CNN that first batch of the auctioned rice has hit the shelves at some of their stores. But in the country that is particular about its rice, with various prefectures competing against one another for the title of the best rice in the country, some said that it would rather sit this batch out, skeptical of the grain's quality. I do not intend to buy it because I have heard that it is old rice. I'm still very particular about rice, housewife said and told the CNN. Uchibori said that he had stocked up the supply on the early March, and after reading about the prices that are going up, and hoped that he would be there and the prices would ease in some time. Sheikh Hamdan bin Mohammed Al Maktoum, the Crown Prince of Dubai, Deputy Prime Minister and the Minister of Defense of the United Arab Emirates, on Tuesday hailed UAE and India ties following a meeting with the Prime Minister Narendra Modi in New Delhi. The Crown Prince of Dubai arrived in the India for the 2-day visit earlier in the day in the invitation of the Prime Minister Narendra Modi. It was a pleasure meeting the Prime Minister Narendra Modi today in the New Delhi. Our conversation reaffirmed the strength of the UAE and India ties, which is built on trust, shaped by history and driven by a shared vision to create a future full of opportunities, innovation and lasting prosperity, he added on the X after meeting Prime Minister Modi. This is Sheikh Hamdan, that is bin Mohammed Al Maktoum, that the first official visit on the India surrounding the Crown Prince of the Dubai, and he is also accompanied by the several ministers, senior government official and a high-level business delegation. Prime Minister Modi hosted a working lunch for the viewing dignitaries and the Crown Prince, that is also held meetings with the External Affairs Minister, that is S. Jaishankar, and the Defense Minister Rajnath Singh. Delighted to welcome the Crown Prince of Dubai and the DPM and the Minister of Defense of the UAE, H.H. Hamdan Mohammed, at the start of its first official visit to India. Value his positive sentiments for our wide-ranging cooperation and vibrant ties, said External Minister Jaishankar. After Delhi, the Crown Prince will visit Mumbai and will also participate in the business roundtable with prominent business leaders from both sides. The interaction will strengthen India-UAE economic and commercial cooperation across traditional traditional and futuristic areas. Traditionally, Dubai has played an important role in India's commercial, cultural, and people-to-people exchanges with the United Arab Emirates. Also, the majority of India's around 4.3 million diaspora in the UAE reside and work in Dubai. The visit of His Highness the Crown Prince will further solidify the India-UAE comprehensive strategic partnership and strengthen our multifaceted ties with Dubai, read a statement issued by the MEA. The Union Minister for Commerce and Industry Piyush Goyal stated the government is working on a bilateral trade agreement as was decided between the Prime Minister Modi and the United States President Donald Trump in February. His remark came in the face of the tariff imposed by the Trump administration. Piyush Goyal assured the business person that the government is keeping India's interest at the forefront and expressed hope that the bilateral trade agreement will power the economy towards the Viksit Bharat 2047. Also, on the United States tariff impact, Union Minister Piyush Goyal told the ANI, "We are working on a bilateral trade agreement as was decided between the Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the United States President Donald Trump in February. We had a series of engagement, all of which are going in the right direction. Also, we are covering the wide area of the subjects and projects. Also, I can assure business person across the country that we are keeping India's best interest at the forefront. Our bilateral trade agreement will power the economy towards the Viksit Bharat in the 2047. Meanwhile, the United Minister of the Hardeep Singh Puri also said, Union Minister Hardeep Puri on Tuesday said he was confident India will emerge stronger from the fallout of the United States administration tariff once the bilateral trade agreement between the two partner countries is finalized. I'm confident that India will do very well under the very able and the wise leader like Prime Minister Narendra Modi and his team, he told reporters when asked to react to the President Trump's reciprocal tariff on trade partners. Since assuming office for his second term, President Donald Trump has reiterated his stance on the tariff reciprocity, emphasizing that the United States will match tariff imposed by other countries, including India, to ensure the fair trade. Also, faced with Trump's reciprocal tariff, a few countries have in retaliation imposed additional tariff on the United States goods, escalating trade tensions. India has, however, refrained from any such move as both countries are actively working on a trade pact. We will come out of this stronger than we are. Every challenge presents an opportunity and India will take advantage of it, he supplemented. We'll have to see how the issues get resolved. Nationwide anti-Israel protest in Bangladesh turned violent on Monday after an unruly mob targeted Israeli-linked businesses like the Bata KFC and Pizza Hut in different parts of the country. Police have arrested at least 49 people from across the South Asian nation in connection with vandalism of the shops and businesses during yesterday's demonstrations. Report of vandalism come at the Bogra, Sylhet and the Cox's Bazar and other areas after people from different walks of life, including the political, social, cultural and religious organization along with students and professionals, took to the streets in protest demanding an immediate end to the Israeli aggression in Gaza. A mob attacked a Bata showroom in Bogra and a KFC restaurant in Sylhet. In Cox's Bazar, a KFC and a Pizza Hut outlet were targeted by protesters who pelted stones at the establishments. The protests were also held near the US Embassy in Dhaka, where security was increased, anticipating the gathering. Anti-American slogans were also heard during the protest, including some targeting the US President Donald Trump. Protesters with the Palestine flags shouting pro-Palestine slogans were also spotted at the protest. Following the violence, Inspector General of Police Baharul Alam also instructed the authorities to arrest the individuals responsible for vandalism across the country. Police said it is identifying culprits based on the video footage of the rallies, and any criminal act under the guise of the protest won't be tolerated. We have video footages of the attackers. They are being identified and will be arrested immediately. Police team are also currently working on this, the police added. The government does not impede any lawful protest. However, we will not tolerate any criminal acts under the guise of protest, a top police official added. While the interim government led by the chief advisor Mohammad Yunus condemned the violence, ousted Sheikh Hasina's Awami League termed the developments as a sign of the alarming rise of extremism in Bangladesh. This is more than a political crisis, it's a national emergency. Bangladesh risks becoming the next Afghanistan if the international community remains silent, the Awami League said in the statement after the violence. Hasina's party demanded accountability from the Yunus-led administration and said the rule of law must be restored. Democracy must be also reformed and revived, with Dr. Yunus must step down to make way for the free and fair elections. To the global community, act now, engage, raise your voices. The cost of inaction will be devastating just for Bangladesh, but for the regional and the global stability of the world, the statements added. Meanwhile, the Nobel laureate, the chief advisor Yunus, who earlier made a statement in support of Palestine, condemned the violence on Tuesday, saying actions will be taken against the people responsible for such violence. Bangladesh police have swiftly moved to take action over the violent and unlawful events that unfolded during the pro-Gaza protest in several cities on Monday. These attacks and acts of vandalism are an affront to the public safety and the rule of law, Yunus said in the statement. As of now, at least 49 individuals have been arrested in connection with these incidents. The police have acted swiftly and 2 cases have been formally filed. We'll have to see how the issues unfold. Now bringing you latest updates on today's market trends. Global equity markets suffered steep losses today, with the major indices across the North and the South American experiencing a broad-based sell-off. Amid the heightened investor anxiety in the United States, the Dow Jones Industrial Average plummeted 2,231 points or 5.50%, closing at 38,314.56, while the S&P 500 dropped 5.97% to reach and to tumble 5,000. And the tech-heavy Nasdaq also tumbled 5.82% to reach 15,587.79. These sharp declines reflect growing concern over the combination of factors, including the inflationary pressures, also the interest rate uncertainty and potential earning disappointments. The Russell 2000, which tracks the smaller cap comprises, that was also hit hard, falling to 4.37% to reach 1827. In the stark contrast, the CBOE Volatility Index, that is the VIX index, often referred to as the market fear gauge, surged 50.93 points to reach 45.31, its highest spike in months, signaling a dramatic increase in the market volatility and risk aversion. Also, investors appear to be rapidly shifting out of the equities and into safer asset of the hedging into their portfolios in the anticipation of further turbulence. The sell-off extended beyond the United States border. The Canadian markets were deeply in the red, with the S&P TSX Composite Index falling 4.69% and the S&P TSX 60 down 4.44%, reflecting a widespread retreat from the risk across the sectors, including energy, finance, material. The Latin America market also faced significant pressure. Brazil Bovespa Index sank nearly 2.96%, losing over 3,800 points, while China's S&P IPSA and Mexico's S&P BMV IPC dropped 2.79% and 4.87% respectively. Today's market action underscores rising unease among investors who are grappling with the tightening of the fiscal conditions, geopolitical tensions, and a general loss of confidence in the near-term economic stability. With the VIX spiking sharply and the key global indices shedding billions in market value, sentiments has clearly shifted into defensive mode. The coming days will be critical in determining whether these are the short-term or the long-term corrections of the start of a deeper, more prolonged downturn. Commodity markets also reflected a day of divergence, with significant movements observed across the energy, metal, and agricultural sectors. Energy commodity faced strong headwinds, leading the day's losses, with WTI crude oil declined by 2.15% to settle at $60.66, while the Brent crude oil dropped 2.21% to reach $64.13. These decline came amid the persistent concerns along Also, the slowing of the global economic activity reduced fuel demand and increasing inventories in the major consuming nations. Additionally, geopolitical tensions and uncertainty surrounding the OPEC Plus reduction strategy continues to weigh heavily on the investor sentiments in the energy space. Natural gas followed suit, slipping 1.64% to reach $3.77. Though still within a relatively stable range, it remains vulnerable to seasonal demand shifts and fluctuating storage data. In contrast, the metal segments painted a more optimistic picture. Gold advanced 1.10% to reach $3,068, maintaining its strong position near the upper end of its 52-week range. Investors appear to be rotating into safe haven assets amid the mounting concerns over the inflationary pressures, currency volatility, and broader macroeconomic stability. Also, the silver that posted the strongest gain of the day among the tracked economies and commodities, jumping 4.57% to reach $30.57. This sharp rise may reflect increased industrial demand as well as renewed interest from investors seeking diversification away from the equities and fiat currencies. Agricultural commodities also showed resilience, with the soya beans inching 1.07% to reach $9. The modest rise suggests continued global demand and potential supply constraints due to the weather-related disruptions in the key growing regions. The commodity is hovering close to the higher end of the 52-week range, indicating relative strength in the agriculture sector. Overall, today's performance illustrates a clear contrast between the declining energy prices and the upward momentum seen in the metal and agriculture sector. Market participants appear to be repositioning their portfolios in the anticipation of economic shifts, possibly favoring hard asset and essential over the cyclical commodities tied closely to growth and consumption. As volatility continues to define the market dynamic, commodities will likely remain a focal point for both the hedging strategies and the speculative that plays in the day ahead. We'll be right back after a short break. I'm Shweta Simar from New Delhi. Keep watching Millennium Daytime Bulletin.
Hello viewers, you are watching Millennium News 24. America and global villages scenes. America independence built by immigrants, manufacturers, roads, highways, educations, healthcare, IT, scientists, space, business development to all thousands of multimedia and all major social media platforms and news network in America. Millennium News 24, one of truthfully news networks in America and global news organizations. Please watch, follow and subscribe. We are in iOS and Android devices, Roku, Amazon, Apple devices, all smart TV, globally Horizon satellite, social media Millennium News 24, Millennium TV 24. Website www.millenniumnews24.com and www.millenniumtv24.com. Thank you.
Welcome back after the break. I'm Shweta Simar from New Delhi and you're watching Millennium Daytime Bulletin. Now let's look at some sports highlights. The left-handed opener Priyansh Arya showed supreme class to smash his maiden century in the IPL against the Chennai Super Kings at the Maharaja Yadavendra Singh International Cricket Stadium in the Mullapur on the Tuesday. The 24-year-old scored the fastest century of the 39 deliveries against the Super Kings and tied Trevor's head of the fourth of the fastest century in the tournament's history. It has also been the second fastest century by the Indian batter in the tournament after Yusuf Pathan. Priyansh's century was also the fastest by an uncapped batter in the IPL, surpassing RCB captain Rajat Patidar's 49-ball century against the Lucknow Super Giants in 2022. The young left-handed opener played a brilliant 42-ball 103 runs inning before being dismissed by Noor Ahmed. His inning was laced with 7 boundaries and 9 sixes as he tore through the Chennai's bowling also attack. With the wicket stumbling from the other end, he perfectly started his inning by sending Khalil Ahmed's delivery for a 6 on the first ball of the game before being dropped by the bowler on the very next delivery, and proceeded to hit quick off the 17 in the opening over. Arya once again rode his luck while the batting at 79 when he was caught by the Mukesh Chaudhary, but he was stepped onto the ropes, demanding a 6. He ended the power play by hitting Ravichandra Ashwin's for 4 and 2 sixes before hitting 2 more sixes off the great Indian spinner in the 12th over. The Los Angeles Dodgers made their anticipated trip to the White House on Monday, visiting the Donald Trump to celebrate their World Series title and keeping up a long-standing tradition of the sports champions meeting the United States President. Trump called the Dodgers manager Dave Roberts one of the greatest managers ever to wear the Dodgers blue, and he also notably shook hands with the Mookie Betts, which also in 2009 had opted not to visit the White House. He was also the member of the 2018 World Series champions Boston Red Sox. Also, that guy can play, can't he? Trump said to Betts. Also, I mean, unbelievable. During the visit in the East Room of the White House, Clayton Kershaw presented Trump with a custom Dodgers jersey with the number 47 on it. Later, Shohei Ohtani got to spend time with Trump in the Oval Office. In 2019 interview with the Los Angeles Times, Robert previously indicated he would decline an invite, but last month Robert said, according to ESPN, that it's a great honor for all of us to visit the White House. Betts, meanwhile, according to the Los Angeles Times, recently called it a regret that he didn't visit in 2019, which was during Trump's first term. Betts also said that according to the Times, that in the hindsight he felt this absence in 2019 distracted from the team's accomplishment and that it had made the news more about him, which called him selfish. Also, this is not about me. I don't want anything to be about me, Betts said, as per the Times last week. This is about the Dodgers because these boys were there for me. That's all for now. Thank you for tuning in. Stay with us for more updates. Log in to stay updated with the latest news on our social media platforms: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Millennium News 24. Don't forget to check out our YouTube channel, Millennium News 24. You can also watch us on Android and iOS devices, as well as on Apple TV, Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV, and all smart TV platforms. Enjoy entertainment and latest news with us. Download the Millennium TV app, Millennium TV USA for Android, and Millennium News on Google. Thank you for being part of Millennium News Channel 24.